I have made tons of Valheim tips videos, but this time I combed through all of them and selected what I believe to be my favorite and easily 7 best tips for each of Valheim's biomes, kicking things off with the Meadows. When landing in Valheim, take advantage of fire and use the torch provided to you when starting a new character. The fire damage will make quick work of twigs and outpaces an alternative like a club or your bare fists. The torch and campfire can also be used to give you some space, as every Meadows creature is afraid of fire. Skip the crude bow in favor of the flint spear as your primary weapon for 3 main reasons. It functions both as a melee and ranged weapon, allowing you to hunt the skittish deer. The spear skill also levels faster than any other weapon skill, providing 2.25 XP per hit, compared to 1.5 for most other weapon types. And it's much more accurate and therefore reliable than the crude bow. To craft a spear, you first need a sheltered workbench, of which you can craft with as little as a single wall and roof piece. First, find a flat piece of ground and place the bench. Jump on top and place a wall piece as close to the back as possible, while leaving a small gap between the wall and workbench. From there, take the shallow roof piece and place it on top of the wall. You can sometimes use other backing like oak trees or runestones to replace the wall piece, but this is the most reliable method. When it comes time to expand your base, you're going to need a ton of wood. Rather than chop trees, deconstruct existing structures as a faster alternative. Lay down your workbench and interact with the foundation to destroy them, and let gravity deal with the rest. And as an aside, you can get core wood normally reserved for the Black Forest at these campsites with the same method. Fine wood too can be gathered early by chopping beech trees deliberately to fall on birch trees, or by pushing logs into them. Once on the ground, you can either push logs together to break the birch, or place a door to do the pushing for you. Surprisingly, pushing a log into another tree will not damage the log. Logs are only damaged by other logs aside from the player and other larger creatures, as we will return to later in this video. Destroy bees when found in huts and campsites. While this may seem obvious, you cannot underestimate the importance of getting a strong honey supply early, as it is a critical ingredient in late game foods and meads. I recommend building your beehives on wooden posts to elevate them out of harm's way. Change this keybind to something other than your mouse button. For me, I use T, but whatever works best for you. Without it, you cannot dodge with your hammer equipped, making our slick Eikthyr strategy impossible. When summoning them, place campfires where the balls of light gather. Once spawned, place more and strafe around the deer boss, repairing them as quickly as possible. If the boss does attack, dodge as you normally would without having to remove the hammer, thanks to the keybind we changed. Repeatedly place campfires underneath the boss to supplement your damage, and in no time, they will be defeated. Heading into the Black Forest, the difficulty spikes with a varied source of danger, predominantly from the Skeleton and Grey Dwarf clans. To ease the combat, bait these factions to fight one another. Each creature in Valheim belongs to one of 7 main factions, with the Grey Dwarf part of the forest and Skeleton the undead. Keep these alliances in mind for later biomes as well. The stone structures in which they reside can be deconstructed for resources. For one, furniture inside can either be destroyed or deconstructed for quick fine wood, and the barrels for blueberries, flint, coal, or even tin ore. Further, you can excavate the earth below the towers and let gravity tear it down for a boatload of stone. By this time, you have likely encountered Valheim's most iconic creature in the Troll. Rather than gathering resources yourself, you can hire them for a bit of coin. Due to their size, their attacks can often damage the environment around them. A smart Viking will use this to their advantage and bait them to destroy copper and tin nodes, as well as stone, pine trees, or even be lured to birch and oak trees for fine wood, normally locked behind a bronze axe. Inside burial chambers, use doors to periodically block archer arrows, or better yet, craft the stag breaker to damage them through walls and doors. Alternatively, some things can be built in dungeons like cooking stations, wood stacks, or campfires to barricade or damage approaching enemies. Skip bronze armor altogether in favor of the troll set. Bronze is expensive and time-consuming to craft, and worse yet, its armor reduces your movement speed. That said, if set on crafting bronze gear, make the helmet. Unlike chest and leg armor, headpieces do not reduce movement speed, and therefore provide the best of both worlds in increased armor without the loss of movement speed. Defeat the Elder with campfires like we did Ike. His torso represents where he will ultimately stand when upright, so place campfires underneath his back, not his legs. Once standing, circle him, doing your best to keep him from facing you squarely, all the while repairing the fires. Like before, in a short time, he will fall. Once defeated, using his altar makes for the optimal base location in all Valheim. Digging underneath allows us to use his altar platform as an impenetrable roof, and further, his fire acts as a permanent source of the fire effect. To find the swamp, you will likely need to take to the ocean, of which my first tip would be to never craft the raft. The raft, while cheap, moves incredibly slow and provides zero storage compared to future ships like the Curve. If the wind is ever against you when beginning to sail, consider sleeping for a chance to reset the wind in a more favorable direction. Weather in Valheim is on a schedule, and there is a chance the next day's weather may have a preferable wind direction. Bring the Drought of Vanity with you when sailing for a 50% reduction in stamina usage while swimming. If you happen to capsize, the reduction of stamina usage would be the difference between life and death should your boat be destroyed at sea. Better yet, keep 10 wood on your person while sailing. As you sail by the coast, place a workbench for a drive-by repair and carry on your way. Beware of night or rainstorms, as these events can trigger the spawn of a dangerous sea serpent. Defeating them will drop valuable resources, but their drops will mostly sink, and therefore, it's best to drag them to shallow water before fighting them. To do this, you will first need to gather a resource from these islands, which are guarded by sharks. Just kidding! In Valheim, shark protection will not be needed, but I am thrilled to share that today's video sponsor, Surfshark, will provide protection for your personal data and so much more. In fact, Surfshark immediately identified a data breach associated with my email from years ago that I had no idea about and was finally able to address. Surfshark will send you alerts if any of your email, credit cards, or other personal information are leaked, on top of providing you private browsing. You can take this even further by leveraging their new alternative ID feature that will generate a brand new identity and email for you to use online to minimize those pesky marketing emails and prevent any of your real info falling into a set of malicious hands. With Surfshark in my corner, I can breathe easy knowing my data is secure. Moreover, your Surfshark subscription even allows for an unlimited amount of devices so that you can share your protection with your loved ones at home. My wife was ecstatic with Surfshark entering our home at the perfect time, allowing her to finally watch her favorite Christmas movies, normally region restricted for us watching here in Canada. Further, Surfshark does more than secure your privacy, but also protects you from the invasion of harmful spyware and malware with its excellent antivirus. Plus, there's absolutely no reason not to try this incredible product, as they provide a 30-day money-back guarantee. Make sure you support the channel and try Surfshark today and get 4 months extra for free by clicking my link in the video description. Thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. As it turns out, these islands are not islands at all, but rather massive floating creatures called Leviathan. These appear in only 1% of ocean areas, but located on them are abyssal barnacles which can be mined for chitin. However, with each swing, the creature has a chance to begin its submersion, signaled by a loud groan. If playing solo, you can log out and log back in to reset this timer to allow you time to mine all the chitin. With enough of the resource, you may craft the Abyssal Razor, making for one of the most powerful mid-game weapons, dealing damage comparable to Iron Tier, and the Harpoon, used to pull serpents close to shore before slaying them for their resources. The Harpoon can also be used to collect feathers from birds and pull tame creatures into pens. The scale and meat found from a deceased serpent allow for the crafting of an incredible food and shield. Firstly, by combining the cooked food with honey and mushrooms, you can make the powerful health food in Serpent Stew, which is incredible, being comparable to even Mistlands tier health foods several biomes later. The scales, on the other hand, can be used to craft the Serpent Scale Shield, the game's only shield to provide damage resistance to pierce of 50%. As you discover the swamp, craft the best armor piece in the game in the Root Harness. It provides a 50% reduction in damage to pierce, making it viable even in late game biomes such as the Mistlands and Ashlands due to the sheer number of pierce-dealing creatures in the game. To get Root for the Harness safely, lure abominations near a sunken crypt and climb on top. Slash damage works best to chop them down, as they will be unable to hit you while being outside of their attack range. Alternatively, lure them on top of Surtling spawners and keep them there by strafing side to side and dodging their attacks. To combat Surtling, use a hoe to level the ground around the flame geysers. Future Surtling will immediately evaporate going forward when they spawn touching water. AFK nearby to farm Surtling cores and coal. Structures found within the swamp can be deconstructed for core wood if you happen to miss it from the Black Forest. Core wood is a key ingredient in the powerful bonfire when combined with ancient, fine wood, and Surtling cores, and is another sneaky way to deal with large creatures like Abomination, as I will elaborate upon later in the video. If you happen to forget your swamp key, there is a glitch you can take advantage of to get into the sunken crypts. Place a wooden chair such that it clips through the gate, sit in the seat, and once you stand, you will enter the crypt. If sunken crypts aren't your thing, you can locate muddy scrap piles above the earth by either using a hammer or wishbone. Alternatively, oozers also have a small chance to drop a smelted iron bar. And with iron, you can craft one of the most underrated weapons in Valheim in the Huntsman bow. This bow, unlike all others, has a low attack and hit noise, making it powerful for a stealthy player, of which we will use later when we make our way into the plains. Wolves are probably the most common and dangerous mountains creature, but you can use rocks or cabins to your advantage to manipulate wolf AI and avoid damage. To take this further, you can set down a workbench quickly and jump atop to give you a quick place of safety. Alternatively, with your hoe and stone, point directly below your feet and raise the earth for a quick height advantage. Search chests in ruins, as unlike the Black Forest and swamp, onion seeds are found within chests and unlock much improved food recipes, which will be critical for overcoming this biome. Surprisingly, stone golems are of the forest creature faction and therefore are not friendly with wolves and drake. When confronted with one, rather than fight it solo, draw drake and wolves towards it and take it down together. For your own safety, avoid the mountains at night at all costs. Like many other biomes, nights are extremely dangerous in the mountains. 1 and 2 star wolves spawn exclusively at night, in addition to the terrible Fenring. Craft my favorite armor and weapon unlocked in this biome in the Fenris armor and Frostnir mace. The Fenris will require that you venture inside the frost caves and collect their hair, but will be worth it as this is the only armor set in the game to boost your movement speed. The Frostnir, on the other hand, will require finding Haldor and purchasing Emir flesh from his shop. From there, combine it with silver, ancient bark, and freeze glands for a weapon you can continue to use all the way to the Ashlands. While searching the frost caves, break structures for easy metal. Firstly, the standing braziers, when destroyed, have a 20% chance of dropping bronze. Secondly, the metal doors, like the braziers, will have a chance of dropping smelted iron when destroyed. Use bonfires to easily beat Moder. Dig below her altar and use the lip as shelter above your head and build a bonfire or more should you have the materials. Summon the boss and retreat. When Moder can no longer see you, she will land above and clip into the bonfire to periodically take damage. Repair the fire sources, and in no time you will have her tears. After defeating Moder and purchasing the fragrant bundle, you can combine it with a grouper and cloudberries for the anti-stink concoction mead base. With this active, Desquito will buzz towards you but be unable to attack for its 10-minute duration. Alternatively, make sure you wear the root harness we acquired in the swamp. With its pierce resistance, you will almost completely nullify their attacks. Use the Huntsman bow to thin out Fueling Village before invading. This bow has drastically reduced attack and hit noise compared to other bows, which will allow you to pick off fueling without alerting others to thin their numbers before entering the camp. I personally like to take up the shaman first, as they can be quite a pain if given the opportunity to shield themselves and allies. If stealth isn't your thing, I once again recommend taking advantage of creature factions. The Tar Pit's growths, unlike the fueling, are part of the undead faction and would be happy to do battle with any camp. In my experience, drawing the fueling to the tar pits is a better, more balanced fight and is another great way to thin their numbers. Switch to your hammer and sheath it rather than sheath your weapon when retreating. You are faster unarmed, and unlike all weapons, the hammer does not have a slowing sheath animation. To accelerate your escape, swap to the hammer in your hotbar and sheath it to sprint more quickly. Combine the Berserker Mead with Bowmass's Forsaken Power. While this mead increases the damage you take while drastically reducing your stamina usage, having Bowmass's power popped simultaneously completely nullifies the mead's downside, making for a super overpowered combination. To defeat Yagluth, easily set up near his tail as he unearths himself. Like many of the other enemies in Valheim, he won't be able to attack you without facing you squarely. As he tries to turn and face you, strafe around the boss while taking any chance you have to whack his tail. You should be able to keep him turning for the full duration of the fight, slowly whittling him down with your weapon of choice. With the Wispblade in hand following Yag, bring at least 5 black metal ingots on your first trip to the Mistlands. One of the key resources in this biome will be sap, which can only be obtained by extraction via the sap extractor, requiring black metal, Yggdrasil wood, and the Devagar extractor. While other metals like copper and iron can be found naturally in the biome, black metal cannot. To get the extractor safely, use a cart to destroy the Devagar boxes without angering the dwarves. Craft it outside the range of their wards, drag it in, and periodically bang the ward until destroyed. From there, you can safely destroy the box for the extractor. Alternatively, once you have refined Eitr, you can drop a few of them near the ward, and over time, the projectiles will destroy it. Another reason for remaining friendly with the dwarves is that they are incredible warriors and hostile with the bugs native to the mist. Bait seekers, soldiers, and y'all to the Devagar towers and let them deal with the insects. If dead set on dealing with them yourselves, of course, the bonfire is a handy way to deal with them with limited gear. When being chased by a Mistlands creature, place the bonfire and strafe around it, forcing the enemy to brush up against it. Repair the fire and repeat to take them down without having to swing your weapon. Of course, the obvious but critical advice will be to prioritize crafting the feather cape to negate fall damage as quickly as you can. Further, the new Lightfoot mead can be crafted to further assist your navigation in the biome by increasing your jump height. Use ooze bombs to deal damage in infested mines. Inside, you'll have to be careful dealing with the close quarters of the dungeon. Rather than break barriers and fight them hand to hand, throw these against the walls to deal damage behind the safety of the barrier. To defeat the queen easily, you could aggro her to the vestibule of her enclosure and use a two-handed hammer to deal damage to her through the wall. You will be out of her reach and only have to worry about the occasional seeker or seeker brood. Otherwise, continue slamming your hammer and use the bow to aggro her back to the vestibule should she become bored of you. Before embarking on your Drakkar to the Ashlands, ensure you bring with you copper, iron, black cores, and Greydorf eyes to facilitate the crafting of a stone cutter, shield generator, and eventually a stone portal. These items will be critical for you to establish your first haven in the unforgiving biome. If you happen to forget iron, however, it and other metals can be found inside ancient pots, both scattered amongst ruins or inside putrid holes. Place a shield generator as close to the base of flame metal pillars before mining them. The generator shields will protect you from fireballs erupting from the lava. If hit, can boop you into the lava, resulting in your demise. Rather than craft the battering ram to conquer fortresses, bring stone and a hoe to raise the earth below your feet and get atop the fortress walls. It would also be wise to destroy the turrets on the corners of the fortress prior to jumping on the wall to ease the invasion. Even better, since you did not destroy the fortress gate, you now have an impenetrable base in the otherwise lethal biome. Once inside, you can also penetrate the inner column of the fortress for its valuable resources, again without the battering ram. While it does take a while, you can break through the inner wall with a black metal pickaxe. Conquering fortresses will give you materials to craft the new troll staff, which will only make overcoming future fortresses even easier. With this weapon, you can summon trolls to land within the bases without having to enter yourself, wreaking havoc within and clearing the fortress without you having to lift a finger. Further, you can use this staff to destroy resource nodes for quick resources, such as stone pillars in the plains or copper veins in the Black Forest. Acquiring the cogswheel from the Skug turret will allow you to craft the catapult. While intended for use in invading fortresses, I find they are best used for travel. Climb the world's tallest mountain, place the catapult, equip your feather cape, and launch yourself across the map for the fastest travel method in all of Valheim. Toss all your kilns, as you can now craft wood stacks and destroy them with torches or your staff of embers for instant 50 stacks of coal in the Ashlands. You can even extend this behavior to all biomes by enabling the fire hazard setting in the world modifier screen. And if you thought these tips were good, I covered 28 things you might have missed in Valheim's most recent Bogwitch update right here.